Hello friends, and welcome to this new video. Here I've put together the presentation in a graphic way to see everything of what's been said between Xavier Ayral and myself in the recent successful interviews we have had, putting key prophetic times and prophecies together to understand where we are heading, where we are in right now. So please hit the like button, hit the subscribe and share at the end of the video to make sure we're reaching as many people as possible to see logically, with more clarity than ever, the time that we are living in and what we must do to prepare.
It appears to me we're in a time when that which was secret is no longer today. And that light that was supposed to be placed on top of the bushel is finally being echoed throughout the four corners of the world, because the time has come for the faithful to know what heaven meant them to be aware of.
Okay then, so let's actually start having a look at everything discussed with Xavier and I, how it's presented in a timeline fashion, a visual to help us see where we are progressing through time. And of course we're going back to, first of all, La Salette in 1846, moving through Marie-Julie lifetime and looking further into that year 83 that our Lord gave her. And as Xavier says in the previous interview, you add those years onto the year 1941 of her death and you arrive at 2021, 2024, which you see why the arrow's going all the way up to the first quarter of this 21st century at 2025. But of course, since then, we've had Fatima, Garabandal, Akita, current day Medjugorje. And Garabandal, Akita, Medjugorje are very fitting for these times. And let's not forget Pope Benedict XVI, when he says that those who think Fatima is historic and done are very much deceiving themselves. And he prayed for the triumph to come all the quicker just shortly before his abdication on the papacy. So these apparitions all are fitting for now, and that's what we're going to see. I want to go backwards in time now, where we see Akita 1973. On October 13th 1973, the anniversary of the miracle of Fatima, Our Lady gave a staunch warning of what would be occurring in the world and in the church, the great Akita prophecy, and why that is still fitting for today. And of course Garabandal in the 1960s. Garabandal, as I'm calling it right now, we have the checklist in place currently, which I'll discuss. Then we of course have Fatima, that was in 1917, still very important for these times, which swallow up Garabandal and Akita and Medjugorje. As she says in Medjugorje, I will fulfill here what I began in Fatima, my immaculate heart will triumph. And that is the great hope for the times that we are in, the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, the era of peace. But of course, Marie-Julie and La Salette, all way back in that time scale, right through all these momentous apparitions in the times we're living in, you can see how they're all moving towards the present day and beyond. They are all relevant, they are all coming together clearly more than ever. Now, one I'm going to pick straight away is the Garabandal checklist. We were told in the 1960s at Garabandal there would be 4 more popes after John the 23rd, one of whom would have a very short reign. And of course we had Pope Paul VI, then we had the very short reign of John Paul I, who only reigned for 33 days, fulfilling that prophecy. Then we had the great John Paul II. Then we had Pope Benedict XVI. There are your 4 popes after John the 23rd. Now remember, Pope John the 23rd did not reveal the Fatima secret by the latest of 1960, as was demanded by heaven through Our Lady's messages at Fatima. And then we had Vatican II shortly thereafter, the deadline, and of course that coincided with the apparitions of Garabandal. But as if those 4 popes had not been enough, heaven seems to be keeping us on a bit of a suspense, because not only was Pope Benedict the 16th that 4th and final pope of the old era, and now as we enter into a new era, he doesn't just go to his heavenly reward by passing. Instead, he retires, abdicates the papacy, and we have Pope Francis stepping up. And there, of course, we have one retired pope, historically, and now we have an active pope under Pope Francis's reign. And of course, these 2 popes, therefore, are fulfilling a lot of prophecy, going way back even further in the 1820s and such, with Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, who spoke about the time of the 2 popes. And later in the years of her prophecy, she also spoke about how compromises were so adamant within the Catholic Church, but also a time where the church was closed. People were praying outside the churches. Then, of course, you saw the Pope having to flee Rome, and he was surrounded with many demonic enemies within the church. So it's very suspense time, whereas is it with Benedict alive, or is it when he's passed? I believe it's when he's passed, because then it's sealed the deal. The 4 have came and gone, and we're in this grey area just now with Pope Francis, lots of controversy in the papacy and in the church, and at the same time look at everything that's happening in the world. And of course we're at the very end of the list of popes according to St. Malachi, with the number coming down to Francis. There's no more after him on that list. Not that I put much emphasis on that, but it's just a coincidence amongst many. So let's go back then in time. Why would be the older ones, such as La Salette, be so important just now, and that of Marie-Julie Jahenny? This is where I'm going to be looking at Xavier's book, Revelations, and reading you exactly what's been said in it. This in the top left is Pope Pius IX, and of course here is Pope Leo XIII. Now why are these popes being featured here? Well, Pope Leo XIII is no secret to this timeline, as you may have seen in my previous videos. Pope Leo XIII had, in 1884, October 13th again, 1884, he had his mystical experience, and this is where we get the prayer of St. Michael the Archangel from that mystical experience and what he wrote down after God granting Satan the time to test the church and humanity. But he was also a great advocate of Marie-Julie Jahenny. Now let's go and read a little excerpt from the book regarding the timeline from these 2 remarkable sources of La Salette and Marie-Julie Jahenny. The church hides the secret of La Salette. Shortly after the death of both seers, the secret given by Our Lady of La Salette mysteriously disappeared. It was widely whispered that the local bishop, irritated by the unflattering message given by the Virgin Mary about the French clergy, did away with the revelation given to the 2 young shepherds. However, over a century later, on 2nd of October 1999, a French priest named Father Cotevillier was doing research work in the depths of the Vatican's underground library, when by sheer accident he discovered an old box containing old folders and carefully tied up papers. The outside of one of these boxes bore the dates of the pontificate of Leo XIII, but inside were folders from the time of Pius IX. One of them contained the whole dossier of La Salette, with all its original documents, including the several manuscripts of the secrets. Finally, the original secrets of La Salette, given to Pope Pius IX in 1851, buried more than 1 century in the Vatican archives, were at last discovered by sheer accident. And then the bit why we've brought it up in the arrow of the timeline to 2025. Here is an excerpt of the letter of Maximin of La Salette, the French seer, the young boy, to His Holiness Pope Pius IX. Here is what Our Lady told me. If my people continue, what I shall tell you will take place sooner. If it changes a little bit, it will happen a little bit later. Keep note of this. France has corrupted the universe. One day she will be punished. Faith will be extinguished in France. 3 parts of France will no longer practice religion, or almost no longer. The other part will practice it, but without practicing it. Then after that, nations will convert and faith will be re-enlightened everywhere. A great country in the north, today Protestant, will convert. Through the support of that country, all the other countries of the world will convert. Here's the key bit. Before this takes place, great troubles will come in the church and everywhere. Then afterwards, our Holy Father the Pope will be persecuted. His successor will be a pontiff that no one expects. Then, after that, a great peace will come, but it will not last long. A monster will come to disturb it. Everything I am telling here will happen in the next century, or at the latest in the years 2000. And this is one of the secret letters hidden in the Vatican archives until it was discovered by accident in 1999. I read about La Salette and Marie-Julie as a teenager, but was there not a specific thing as well with Maxim of La Salette when he spoke later a time? These things were going to happen late in the 20th century, but then it was reserved up until the quarter of the 21st century.
Exactly. It wasn't a letter he wrote to the Pope at the time.
I fired a lot there, but where would you pick up with that one?
No, that's your knowledge is admirable. Well done, Mark. All this I wrote in my book. No, very few people know that. Brilliant. Blooming brilliant. Look, that's quite true. You portrayed facts in an exemplary manner. Indeed, Maxime Giraud wrote to the Pope when he was supposed to write a report stating, as you said, that all these events, these prophecies, were to take place by the end of the 20th century. But if humanity were to respond in kind, it could be postponed for the early part of the 21st century. That's now.
Why is it we're always hearing about secrets? The secrets of La Salette, the hidden secrets of Lourdes even are documented in Xavier's book. The third secret of Fatima is the most prominent of all, isn't it? But when you start reading this book and reading the sources highlighted here, going back to La Salette and Marie-Julie, you'll come to the point as, well, you don't have to really guess what may have been contained in the Fatima secret. It was already probably said long before Fatima, and it has been echoed later after Fatima, especially when you look at garabandal and Akita. And a highlighted point of Akita, as on the interviews with Xavier, is the fact that Cardinal Ratzinger, our beloved Pope Benedict XVI, as head of CDF, gave the stamp of worthy of belief for Akita after his meeting with the Japanese Bishop Ito. Why did they do it so easily, without further investigations in the normal way that the Church should go about it? And as Bishop Ito has stated, the meeting they shared, Ratzinger explained that the third secret of Fatima has been echoed at Akita with the October 13th, 1973 message given to Sister Sasagawa. It was that warning of Akita that gave it worthy of belief and directly linked it to the secret of Fatima. But Akita speaks about bishop against bishop, cardinals against cardinals and such, a warning to humanity that 2/3 of the population could be wiped out. It could come through the human race itself. The living would envy the dead. These are the highlighted words within this warning. When did we hear that formally addressed in the Third Secret of Fatima, when the Church gave us everything apparently in the year 2000? It doesn't add up. But as we're starting to discover, and as Xavier says on the video, everything has been put by the Church into secrecy, although heaven wanted it to be made known to the universal Church, all of us, long before all these things were coming. They've given us nearly 2 centuries worth of time to change, and it's as if the Vatican knows better than heaven and what to do with keeping all these things secret and not following heaven's mandate.
It appears to me we're in a time when that which was secret is no longer today. And that light that was supposed to be placed on top of the bushel is finally being echoed throughout the 4 corners of the world, because the time has come for the faithful to know what heaven meant them to be aware of.
But we don't stop there. What else can back up La Salette with the fact that the years 2000s these things will come around? We have to, of course, go to the great mystic and stigmatist Marie-Julie Jahenny, who are documented prophecies within this book take up the majority of any other source. And also it's been well discussed a couple of times at least now with Xavier and I on the channel. But let's look at the years first of all. The storm will break over France, where I wanted to show the prodigies of my divine heart and unveil its secrets. My children, France will be the first to be wounded, torn, persecuted. When I showed this divine Son to Blessed Margaret Mary, let my lips utter these words. The land which saw your birth and which will see your death will be in dire danger, especially from 80 to 83. What point of reference would these dates, 80 to 83, be based on? One thing is certain. These dates were neither for the 19th nor the 20th centuries. Hence, could it possibly be that the central reference point for these mentioned years would be Marie-Julie Jahenny's death date? 1941. If this were to be indeed the case, it would imply that most of the announced events to come would occur in between 2021 and 2024, when you add these years respectively onto the year 1941. But again, there is no foundation to this hypothesis. So if we add Marie-Julie Jahenny's dates 80 to 83 on top of 1941, the year of her death, it does bring us right up at the latest to 2024. Look what's already occurred. And if that's not enough with the dates, what about something else to be putting in as a prophecy, where Marie-Julie Jahenny prophesied that after the long reign of an English queen in these times, hostilities would break between the new sovereign in the land and that of Persia, which we know as modern day Iran, and the surrounding nations of Israel. And therefore we can fit the death of Queen Elizabeth II last year, and with the new reign of King Charles, here we are at the end, the last quarter of 2023. We're at the end of Malachi's list of popes with Francis, who just so happened to be one of the 2 prophesied popes of Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, and to keep us in suspense wondering if Pope Benedict, being the 4th pope after Garabandal, with the years 21 into 24 coinciding with Marie-Julie Jahenny's years, we had the pandemic. We are having an escalating war with Russia ready to sweep Europe, at the same time mass migrations coming over the Mediterranean, all of which Marie-Julie Jahenny has prophesied, and what has been discovered in Vatican archives relating to La Salette, which has been discussed a lot with Xavier and I on the channel, and I please appoint you if you haven't seen them already, or even if you have, re-watch them, get the details more and more, and you'll see how this timeline fits all the more, as it has done for me. We're on the brink of something that's ready to explode. Russia's waiting for a moment What could that be? I think it's more of a destabilising Europe, which we are seeing more and more. And at the same time, Israel, surrounded by its enemies and taking international pressure now with this war in Palestine, and with all the fleets of America and its allies surrounding the Gulf and the Mediterranean for this to kick off, and then the threats of China to Taiwan, everything's ready to come at once. The whole world is ready to go into another new war. And heaven has been warning us for 2 centuries, primarily, what to do to avert it. This doesn't have to happen. So heaven's clearly sending us a big warning that if we do not change, these are the things that will occur. But remember, there's hope. Even from all these sources, there is still great hope. Great acts of God's mercy, such as the warning, the illumination of conscience, which has been echoed through marian, garabandal, and many others. Even those that are not fitting in this timeline, although we could add them. But the last one I want to add is Medjugorje, here in the white, in the bottom corner, from 1981 to the present day. As quoted, "What I began in Fatima, I will fulfill here in Medjugorje. My immaculate heart will triumph." We have to hold on to this great hope that God is very much still in charge of all that's happening. It's humanity that's not listening from what we're gathering. But why Medjugorje, therefore? Let's go back to La Salette and the quote in Xavier's book. The letter of Maximin to Pope Pius IX is already read. I told you to take note of the following. Here is what this lady told me. "If my people continue, what I shall tell you will take place sooner. If it changes a little bit, it will happen a little later." Well, I believe that little later has came about because of the efforts of humanity responding precisely to the constant pleas of Our Lady, our Blessed Mother at Medjugorje, to conversion. And that's the one answer why people say, "Oh, why is she appearing for so long in such a way?" She did say once her plans were fulfilled at Medjugorje, she would not need to appear on earth in the same way again. This is a final conclusion where she also said in Medjugorje, "What I began in Fatima, I will fulfill here in Medjugorje. My immaculate heart will triumph." This is what it's all leading to. The final confrontation between heaven and hell, between Christ and the Antichrist, between his church and the false church, as Lucia of Fatima did say. We're seeing the parallels of the church and the earth going right towards doom in so many ways, and divisions and fighting and all sorts of stuff that's been pre-warned to us all along for these past couple of centuries especially, which fits entirely with scriptures. We're in a new era with Francis, and a new era is about to be pruned to regrow in the era of peace. Perhaps also we could call it the era of living in the divine will of the Father. But this is why, as Maximus says, it'll be a little later. Why? Because of the response. We have responded to the point where the visionaries of Medjugorje told us that one of the secrets has been abolished. I think it was Secret 7 has been abolished because of our response to the messages of prayer and fasting, etc. But others will still happen. But based on our response and the vacuum of grace coming through our efforts into the world, it could be minimalised more and more. So we do have a vital role to be praying every day, to be consumed with the love of God, allowing his supernatural and transforming grace to take over, to bring us anew, and that is how it spreads. And that's exactly why I want you to spread these videos, especially the ones in this playlist of the Marian apparitions and prophecies. I bring it all to you in a way so that some people learn differently from others. Some prefer graphics, some prefer the chats, some just get it from reading. This is my style as well, and I hope it serves a purpose to many. So please do your part, hit the like, subscribe and share button. It helps promote the videos to reach more people, and sharing it on your prayer groups, your WhatsApp groups, your messenger platforms and social media. Spread the word, because look where we are in the timeline. We're coming up to some ultimate conclusion. It can't go on forever. That's not the purpose. It's coming to a conclusion, and we have to get as many souls as we can on the right side. So I bid you farewell until the next video. You know what to do, and God bless you.